nobody who's around Trump believes for a second that he genuinely changed his view on abortion at age 68. And when you ask him why he changed his view, the story is, well, I was pro-choice my whole life. His wife's pro-choice, his family's pro-choice. But then I met a kid who I liked, and the kid's mom said, I thought about getting an abortion, but I didn't. And Trump wants us to believe that that made him completely against abortion. All of this stuff is far more nakedly political.
David Pakman went on this show, The Digital Social Hour, and on this show, he absolutely humiliates himself. I would say he got humiliated, but really, he just humiliated himself by the things that were coming out of his mouth. It's crazy the mental gymnastics that these people go through, these leftists like Destiny, David Pakman, and these sorts of people, to try and justify the horrible immigration laws, the horrible effort in just serving the country that the Biden administration has gone through overall. In particular, David Pakman gets into the immigration discussion and argument and debate with this guy on the Digital Social Hour podcast. Let's get into this clip here where David Pakman gets absolutely humiliated and just copes so hard about immigration and the current state of America under Joe Biden.
Trump is willing to completely sacrifice what he genuinely believes. I'll give you another example. Trump's been pro-choice his entire life on the issue of abortion. Melania Trump recently in an interview said, I'm pro-choice. Trump contrived and fabricated this anti-abortion view because he said to himself correctly, I'm going to run as a Republican. One of the big fundraising issues for Republicans is that you've got to be against abortion. He started speaking at the Right to Life March or the March for Life or whatever it's called. Nobody who's around Trump believes for a second that he genuinely changed his view on abortion at age 68. And when you ask him why he changed his view, the story is, well, I was pro-choice my whole life. His wife's pro-choice, his family's pro-choice. But then I met a kid who I liked, and the kid's mom said, I thought about getting an abortion, but I didn't. And Trump wants us to believe that that made him completely against abortion. All of this stuff is far more nakedly political, whereas let's look at some of the areas where Kamala Harris has changed her mind. Legalization of cannabis. She used to be against it. She now came out with the most left-leaning position any major party candidate has taken, which is
Which, by the way, I do think Donald Trump is somewhat anti-abortion, obviously, but he's not completely anti-abortion. Like, he's not as anti-abortion as I am, where I'm just like, let's ban it nationwide. Like, why does that even exist? Trump is like, if a nation... This is why these people are just complete bad faith actors. Because he's sitting across from someone who is definitely not as knowledgeable as him, and he understands. This podcast host here understands. David Pakman is way more knowledgeable about these topics. This guy is not a political commentator. He's just a podcast host, okay? And it's so bad faith to go into the discussion and be like, act as if it's understood that Donald Trump is just completely anti-abortion, because he's not. Donald Trump has said over and over again, and it pisses me off how much he says this, I just don't know why he says it. If a national abortion ban bill came to my desk as president, I would not sign it. He said that over and over and over again. And these are the same people, these people like David Pakman, are like, Donald Trump and his evil Project 2025. It's like, no matter how many times Donald Trump says, I don't even know what the hell is inside of Project 2025. I've never read it. I'm not involved in that. That's not me. Also, I'll say, there's not much crazy stuff in Project 25. Like, it's pretty normal stuff. But regardless, they're bad faith because they'll continue to say these things even though Trump has said, I've never read Project 25. I don't know what's in there. And Donald Trump has also said, I don't want a national abortion ban. In fact, I would not sign that bill. I am blatantly saying that for everyone to see. And they're still like, Donald Trump is anti-abortion. Donald Trump is anti-abortion. He's not. He's not anti-abortion enough, in my opinion.
she wants it legalized. Oh, but she flip-flopped. She changed her mind. Well, she came around to the right view as public opinion and research on cannabis evolved.
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's no conflict. With Trump, a lot of this stuff feels nakedly and brazenly opportunistic.
Makes sense to me. Now, this is the big one. I'd love to hear your opinion on this one, the border policy.
Okay.
Who do you think's got the better border policy between those two?
Well, the important thing to understand is that Trump's border policy isn't completely clear. I mean, I'll tell you the parts that are clear. He wants to build a wall across the entire U.S.-Mexico border, which you can't actually...
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Actually do. You can only do it in certain parts because there's other types of barriers, including water and different things. I don't think Trump knows. I don't think Trump cares, but he says we're going to build a wall across the entire thing. and maybe Mexico will pay for it. That was part of it in 2016. He failed to do it. You can't do it in a presidential term. You're not going to get Mexico to pay for it. And it's not really going to deal with the broader issue, which is people that are flying in and overstaying visas, people being smuggled in or coming in legally and staying through legal ports of entry, et cetera. So he wants to build this wall. He's not going to build the wall, and it wouldn't actually solve the problem. Trump wants to do militarized mass deportations. When he's asked who would be included.
Let's maybe talk about what Joe Biden did, because the question was who has the better border policy. And then David Pakman just resorts directly to all of the talking points that the machine state gives him and tells him that he's supposed to repeat. Let's talk about what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did with the border while they were in charge. And also he's saying it's not about letting people in or not, which it definitely is. You know, these people, they have to get in to be able to overstay their visas. But he's saying it's more about people who are overstaying their visas. Okay. Donald Trump also said he wanted to do mass deportations. Now, whether or not you agree with the H-1B visa stuff that Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk have been pushing, who are obviously, they have Trump's ear for sure. I don't agree with a lot of stuff that's being said there. And also a lot of this stuff is really making me think that it is all just one big club, even more so than before. Like I always knew that it was one big club, and both sides are like, they pretend fight. It's like WWE. They pretend fight in public and they're actually friends behind the scenes. I thought Trump was a little bit different. And then those clips with Obama when he's, you know, talking, laughing with Obama and stuff. And it's like, he's just like everybody else, right? But regardless though, what David Pakman's talking about here, it's about people overstaying their visas, not people coming into the country illegally. Okay, well, he did talk about mass deportations, and now he's going to have a problem with Donald Trump talking about mass deportations. Like, this guy can't win. In David Pakman's mind, nothing that Donald Trump can ever say is correct, ever.
In that, sometimes he'll say, well, the criminal illegal aliens who have committed violent crimes. Okay, we already do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have to serve time here first, then they get deported. We already have that in place. So then you asked Trump, well, what about those who came here as minors because they were brought by their parents before they legally had any say? Someone came here when they were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now they're 20. They have no connection to their birth country. They speak English. They've gone to college here, et cetera. You're going to deport them? Not a clear answer. That's a real problem for me. The answer should be clear. We're not going to deport them. Of course not. Trump's asked, what about, mothers? Will mothers be separated from their babies and put into these militarized deportation camps? Trump says, that's a tough one because I'll get bad press if I do that. Rather than saying, of course we're not going to do that. Of course we're not going to do that. So my view on this is I am not for an open border. I don't believe we have one. I think countries have a right to enforce their borders. If people are here illegally and they don't have any legal status, they're subject to deportation. It's the name of the game.
So you agree with that?
With people who are here illegally being deported?
Yeah.
As a general principle, that's absolutely the way every country functions. I also think we have a bunch of industries that, thanks to big agriculture and for other reasons, industries that are dependent on migrant labor. I've not heard Trump articulate, if you deport all those folks they're just here working. Yes, they're here illegally, but they've committed no other crime and they're just here working. What do you do about those industries that would collapse? I haven't heard an answer to that. When it comes to what we call DACA, I think we need to give some path to, at minimum, permanent residency, if not citizenship, to those who came here as minors through no fault of their own. They're contributing here. They're essentially American in every sense of the word. So we've got to figure that out. So I don't think there's any, you agree with this or you agree with that. I think this is a complicated issue. And I say this as an immigrant to the United States who came here.
It's an interesting point that David Pakman brought up there. I'm curious to see what you guys say in the comments, because he brings up the point of what about these industries that have become pretty reliant on these immigrants working? And my initial thought, and maybe I'm completely wrong, let me know in the comments, is that the only way that an industry would be dependent on immigrants working is if they're dependent on them because of the low wages that they're able to pay them. So if an industry is dependent upon the immigrants because they get to pay them extremely low wages, well, I mean, that's kind of a bad industry to be in, right? Like if your industry can only exist if you're able to pay people extremely low wages because they're immigrants, it doesn't seem like a very good business model. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe they should be put in that tough position and actually have to pay Americans proper wages. Maybe that should be the case. Maybe that's not such a bad thing, even though Pakman's making it out to sound like a bad thing, and it does sound like a bad thing when he says it. Maybe it's not so much of a bad thing that these people are forced to stop paying these illegal immigrants such low wages and actually pay Americans for the same job what the job should be paid. You know what I'm saying? Let me know in the comments if I'm off on that or if you agree. I'm curious to see.
Here legally.
Yeah. Yes, my parents did too. When you see these crazy numbers, though, like they're saying 20 million illegals came in the past, 4 years, 8 years? Did you see that?
I've not seen any proof of that number. I think the thing about this is I don't want to play games about what the real number is. That number is not a number that I've seen anywhere reliable in terms of from Border Patrol or INS or whatever. I don't know that the number is really going to get us to the right policy. I mean, people have come into the U.S. illegally while Biden has been president, while Trump has been president, while Obama was president, while Bush was president. It's a country of 340 million people. People enter the country illegally. There are different circumstances. What I don't want to see is this to become a thing where immigrants start being targeted and scapegoated, the way we've seen, for example, with the Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, who you might not like the policy, but they are here with temporary protected status. Some people are saying that shouldn't exist. Okay, we'll go lobby and change it. But right now they have temporary protected status. I don't want to see people start to be scapegoated and that sort of thing. But of course, countries have a right to enforce their borders.
Absolutely. Any other policies come to mind?
I mean, you can bring up any that you want. I don't have like a laundry list to go over, but I'm glad to talk about it.
Well, the corporate tax, Trump lowered it, didn't he?
I just think it's funny how he makes himself sound like the closing statements are always something so tame. But throughout the entire thing, he's like planting seeds of just insane takes. Like, I don't want immigrants to be scapegoated. Dude, we have the data. Like, come on, man. Like, it's not scapegoated. I sometimes people might go a little bit out of hand, right? Like, there are people who are just straight up racist, and they're just like, oh, you're an immigrant, you must be a criminal. And that's not obviously the case. But we have the data. These people are not being scapegoated. And then he ends it off with something really tame, and he's like, of course, countries have the right to enforce their border. Well, no shit, dude. Like, that's what they're there for. And he ends it off on that, and it makes him seem all reasonable. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think about David Pakman. Just cope after cope after cope about immigration, about the border, about so many different things. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about David Pakman humiliating himself live on this show.